Yo, so guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to super interesting maps of the US that you need to see. And yeah, I love map videos, you know how it is. And we're just going to jump straight into this. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more videos of mine. I've been posting a lot on there over the Christmas period, plus videos over the last few years. There's a lot on there if you want to see some more of my videos. But let's jump into this and see some of these maps.
Maps are the best. I keep repeating this in videos, but I really think it's true. I could look at almost any type of map for such a long time without getting tired of it. And the reason why is that when you look at a map, you're always learning. Regardless of what the map is about, it presents you with some type of data regarding the depicted territory. So in this video, we're going to do exactly that and use around 10 maps to learn some interesting pieces of information about the United States. There's an infinite amount of data maps we can use in a situation like this. I chose 10 that I came across online and that I found particularly interesting, allowing us to draw some specific conclusion from them. They are also unrelated to each other. A quick disclaimer, I got these maps off Reddit, Instagram, and other places online. Remember, there might be some inaccuracies. Let's start with the two on the thumbnail. First, house prices. Looking at this map, we realize that houses seem to be
So less than 100k? There's a lot for less than 100k. Jeez. What the hell? So damn cheap. For a house. And then obviously more than 700k, which is on a lot of the coastal western cities. And also some on the east as well. Basically mainly in California, to be honest.
Much more expensive in the western part of the United States. This surprised me. I knew urban centers were very expensive in the west, but I assumed altogether the East Coast states had a higher cost of living. Apparently this isn't exactly the case. California seems to be the most expensive state overall. Maybe only Connecticut rivals it, although this map is divided by counties, which allows us to get a grasp of the different realities within the same state. This is especially interesting in the East Coast, in places like Florida, New York, Pennsylvania, or Virginia, where the vast majority of the state is much cheaper when compared to the main urban centers. The whole state of New York is much cheaper than the Manhattan area, known for its ridiculous housing prices, and the same happens, for instance, in Tennessee. I was surprised by some of the most expensive places. Honestly, I had no idea that Colorado was also expensive. Hawaii was more expected. An interesting map associated with this one is the next, which points out the salary you need to afford the average home in each state. This presents an interesting
Wait, so the average salary you need in California, $120,000? Oh my days. That is mental. Hawaii, $153,000. Where's the cheapest? So it would be Ohio? Ohio's the cheapest, I think. No, God, 38,000. That's what, like £30,000. That's still quite a lot.
Comparison with the previous map, because it takes into account another important aspect in house purchases: salaries. If in a given state prices are super cheap but the salaries are super low, then maybe they end up having a worse housing situation than a super expensive state that has medium high salaries. Colorado stands out again as one of the worst here, but none beat California. In 5 states, you need a salary of over $90,000 a year to purchase the average home: California, Colorado, New York, Hawaii, and Massachusetts. Washington, Oregon, and Utah are the next higher level. The best relation between house prices and salaries seems to be in Ohio and West Virginia, then Montana, Idaho, and Nevada, along with Virginia, Connecticut, and Florida, which range between $70,000 and $80,000. Texas, Minnesota, Arizona, Alaska, North Carolina.
Why is West Virginia so much cheaper than Virginia? It's literally like half the price. Why is it such a big difference?
Delaware, New Jersey, Vermont, and New Hampshire are in the halfway mark on the scale. Texas surprised me. I thought it would be higher up. And then in yellow and green, we have the places where lower salaries will be able to buy you a house under the terms pointed out in the title of the map. Then we have the second map on the thumbnail, forest area. This map surprised me for two reasons. One, I always knew the US had a lot of desert, but I didn't expect this whole wide area in the middle to be so empty of forest. The high degree of vegetation in the west coast was expected, but it also surprised me that the east coast areas are so densely full. This is the area of the US that's most inhabited, and usually more humans equals less nature. I'm glad to see this isn't the case. There are some conflicting maps about this though, although I think the key differences lie in one being a map of virgin forest, meaning naturally occurring, and the other including all, meaning also the ones that were planted by humans. This series of three maps, one from 1620, the other from 1850, and the last from 1926, shows us how devastated the virgin forest of the US has been, with the majority of it disappearing and being cut down. The areas roughly coincide in all the maps, with the desert areas always being there. Is the first map accurate in representing forests today? Let me know in the comments. Now, before we keep going, a quick message from today's sponsor.
Getting his money. Let's go, bro. Getting his bread. Biggest predator, largest predator.
Video. Oddly enough, the forest coverage doesn't seem to affect or create any associated trend in the presence of animal predators.
Oh, this is a cool one. I like this one a lot. So this is like where they mostly are. I'll let him go through and then just read it after. But
which is what this map shows us. The largest land predator by US state.
Look at the black bear just dominating, man.
Most of the South has the American alligator as the largest, while Florida has the American crocodile. I for one didn't even know the US had crocodiles. I thought it was only alligators and assumed that only Florida and Louisiana had them. Most of the continental US have the black bear as their largest predator. It's important to point out this is the largest and not the most common or most dangerous. If you have the coyote, Nebraska the mountain lion, and three others the grizzly bear. And
mountain lion? What? There's mountain lions in the US. God damn.
Alaska, it's the polar bear, and in Hawaii, it's the domestic cat. A very
domestic cat. Oh, that's cute.
Big threat.
That's probably the same as the UK, to be honest.
We conclude that there are few states in the US where some type of bear isn't the biggest predator. This next map is old. It's from 1942.
I do want to read it a bit more first. I was thinking, yeah, polar bear. Where's polar bear for Alaska? Yeah. Domestic cat, mountain lion. Yeah, that's crazy,
biggest
man.
Predator. This next map is old. It's from 1942, and it shows us the resources of the United States. It mixes extracted but also produced resources, so it's a little confusing, but it's interesting to see what came from where at the time. It doesn't specify a lot. For instance, all the ores are grouped up, but we get to see how mineral extraction was somewhat common throughout the entire territory, and also point out a few regional tendencies. The Northwest and Northeast seem to be the main origins of timber, while the South was where all the cotton came from, with grain being more common further north. California seemed to be the only state where fruit was produced, and sheep and pigs were mostly produced in the middle western area. Of course, this is now incredibly outdated. The closest version of this map that I could find was this one. It shows us the most profitable industry per state. The middle west of the country still has meat as its biggest.
Rockets? What? Aerospace for Seattle, for the Seattle area. Meat for a lot through the center of the US. Pharmaceutical. Surprises not more, to be honest. Accommodation and food services. What's this one here? Mineral productions. Products, sorry. Fishing. Here and here.
This industry, which.
And it says the amount it makes as well. So for California, it would be machinery, and it's quite low. Actually, it's not low. It's 26 billion. What am I saying? What New York? 5.6 billion for. No, this is New York here. For precious metals and stones in New York. What?
Which shows perhaps animal farming is still prevalent. Surprisingly, a lot of states have aerospace as their most profitable sector. Maybe this includes air travel, with even more having mechanics and machinery. Extraction is also fairly common, like in Texas, and automotive too. Maine stands out by being the only continental state in which fishing is number one. Only Alaska also has it, just like Massachusetts with precision instruments, whatever that is, or Wyoming with chemicals. A lot has changed between the 20th and 21st centuries, but it's cool to see how some connections in industries still exist in specific states, as well as how much things have changed. Another map that shows us different categories per state is this one, which tells us the most common restaurant cuisine in each state. I guess it takes the number of registered restaurants, categorizes them by type of food, and then shows us which is more common, if it is accurate. Mexican food seems to be the most.
There ain't much Asian. I thought there'd be more Asian, to be honest. I'd say Asian is definitely the most in England, without a doubt. There's only really one area here where it's dominant, and also in Alaska. But the main is Hawaii, a lot of Hawaiian. What's Hawaiian food like? Mexican, which obviously isn't a surprise, just fast food in general. Pizza. Pub? Oh no, there's a lot of pub. Where's Hawaiians in Hawaii? Then a lot of pub food, which actually would be very high here. But probably pub and then Thai. Pub and then Asian food in the UK. Seafood here. And then also here as well.
Most common in the southwest, while pizza is most common in the northeast, although Italian in general is also big in New York and around it. Maine has seafood, makes sense if they
Yeah, that makes sense for New York with the mafia bosses.
fish so much, as does Louisiana. Asian is very common in Washington and Alaska, apparently, while a lot of northern states have pub. I'm not really sure what this means, maybe some English influence. And Hawaii has Hawaiian food as the most common. It's interesting to see how the presence of specific immigrant communities may impact the results in some states. The East Coast, having so many Italian heritage families, likely causes their choice of restaurants, as must be the case with Mexican ones in the south, closer to the border with Mexico. Fast food, however, does break this trend in a few states. These are places that sell food, and when you buy something, you have to pay a sales tax. That was a good transition, right? Here is a map that shows us the sales tax percentage by county in the US. I'm not sure if the gray ones are 0%. I highly doubt it, or if there was just missing information. Again, if you know, let me know in the comments. It's weird to see how inside the same country a tax rate can vary so much, although I guess we need to remember the US is a federal state and they're almost a group of countries together, so it makes some sense that they each have their own laws. In Europe, I don't think any countries have different tax rates for different areas within themselves, even in federal countries like Germany, for instance, but let me know if I'm
Wait, I didn't know Germany was a federal country.
wrong about this. These southern states seem to be the highest here in red, although Arizona and California, as well as Washington, have high percentages too. New York seems to be the only East Coast state where they're higher, and Maine seems to be the lowest, along with Alaska and Hawaii. This isn't necessarily bad. I guess it depends on your point of view about taxes. Also, the percentage isn't as important as the base cost of the products. And differences in counties are infinite. The most obvious one is the size of them in terms of area. Counties in the east coast of the US are much smaller.
Yeah, these are massive. These are much bigger here in this sort of side of the US.
While as you move west, they become larger.
Probably because there's less population. There's a lot of desert area and stuff, so it's a lot more sparsely populated, I guess.
Mostly because they are less populated and more filled with nature, even if it's desert. Some bigger states maybe have 10 to 15 counties, while small ones reach up to 30. The east of the US was colonized first, and so its history goes further back, having had more time to grow and develop. This, along with other factors, led to more people settling there. The biggest explanation for this difference really is population density, as we can see here on this other map. But there are some exceptions. This shows us how 144 counties have more population, over half of the country's total, than the remaining 2,998, which really goes to show how concentrated the population is. Although it does put into question the argument I just made, a lot of these more populated counties are in the West, and they have large sizes. So why aren't they separated or organized into smaller ones? Perhaps the answer to the question lies more in the time in which the eastern states were created and organized earlier in history, in comparison to the later establishment and territorial organization of the western and center ones. And finally, this map shows us every place in the US that has had or has a woman in Congress. Some have had at
least one woman in both, at least one woman in Senate, at least one woman in House.
At least one woman in the House of Representatives. Others have had at least one in the Senate.
Wait, is Grey just none then?
Some have had them in both houses of the US Congress. Although it's interesting to see how some have had neither, it's really surprising to find that some states, the ones in gray, have had very few women to represent them politically. Mississippi and Vermont, for instance, have never had either according to this map. A very shocking discovery for me if this is accurate. So, those are a few, in my opinion,
Damn, some interesting maps there then. I mean, you know I like my maps, so it's always good to see this stuff. But yeah, hopefully you enjoy this. If you want to subscribe to his channel, links to the video will be in the description, so you can go show him some support there. But yeah, if you want some more map videos, let me know in the comments. And until next time, like, subscribe. Peace.